Many times during our day, we stop breathing or begin breathing very shallow, minimal to maintain consciousness. When someone's taking a photo of you, have you noticed when you're posing for a photo, you've all had an opportunity to do that? It's usually like this. Very difficult to breathe while someone's taking a photograph. Try it with a selfie sometime. When we're pouring liquid into a glass, often we'll hold our breath momentarily. Blood pressure goes up, just spikes, and then back down. When we're doing any focused activity, there's even a term for it, texting apnea. Often when we're at the keyboard, we realize we have hardly been breathing. So this is one form of mindfulness. Now, if I could ask you, just for your health, to benefit you, to stand up once more, but this time, consciously, inhale your way up to your feet. Float up to your feet with the inhale, and when you sit back down, exhale your way back down to the chair. So you inhale up, everyone did that, and back down. Thank you. And if you're a rebel, you can exhale on the way up and inhale on the way down. That's okay. But remembering to breathe is one daily practice of mindfulness that we can do. Now, if I can ask you to do one other little exercise, which is just to close your eyes. And please keep them closed to get the most benefit from this next exercise. Now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and see in your mind if you know the answer to them. For example, what color is the carpet? What does the carpet on the floor here look like without looking? Think about it. How about how many chairs are there on stage? Are you calculating now or remembering? If you have a person to your right, what are they wearing? If there's a person on your left, what are they wearing? Final question, what are you wearing? Well, probably you can handle that one. Now, there's no right or wrong here. It's just an interesting kind of exercise. Please open your eyes and look down at the carpet. And glance at the person to your right and or left. And notice what they're wearing. How many chairs on stage? How accurate were you? It's not a pass or fail. When we talk about mindfulness, we're talking about two kinds of mindfulness. Really, I've been described as an expert on mindfulness. I think my wife would beg to differ. After I do the dishes, she'll say, Dan, come over here. Do you see this spot? It's called dirt. And so maybe I am truly mindful 10 to 20% of the day, which is pretty good, starting out at 1 or 2%. But I have a desire to share some ideas about mindfulness and how we might bring that more and more into life and how we might practice. So that's why I'm here with you now. So when we're mindful, we can be mindful of what's inside our subjective content, our thoughts and emotions, as in meditation or other internal observing exercises. We can also be mindful of the world around us. Thus, the 1960s proverb, lose your mind and come to your senses. To notice things like the colors around us and what's going on. So really, mindfulness, when we talk about it, it's a popular term from the Buddhist tradition, and many Buddhist practices are becoming more popular today. They're doing fMRI studies of meditators and so on. Their mindfulness meditation is the traditional meditation, also called vipassana, used by the Buddha, apparently, of just simply noticing what's arising within when our eyes are closed or half closed, and we're not distracted by the outside. But really, what is mindfulness? It's paying attention. Now, that's not so easy to do. Very brief story. One day I was sitting on a curb in Berkeley, California, and I had about an hour before my training began, and I had a grapefruit. I was peeling it and eating chunks of the grapefruit, watching car exhaust at eye level. I was sitting down, after all, and watching litter blowing in the streets. And for no reason I can explain, it was one of those transcendent experiences. Suddenly, everything around me was perfect. Absolutely perfect. By the way, there was nothing in the grapefruit, as far as I know. But the car exhaust was perfect. The litter in the street was so perfect. Even though when I was in college, the Vietnam War was raging, the world had problems, as it does today, and challenges. But I was unable to conceive of anything as less than a perfect part of our process of evolution unfolding. Now that sounds fairly transcendent, a moment of insight, awareness, even illumination. But I believe it was just a few moments of free attention where I regained the eyes of a child. If you've looked into the eyes of an infant lately, they don't know what anything is, but it sure is interesting. So I regained that just for a little while because I had free attention. Most of the time our attention is not free. We're muttering to ourselves subliminally about what am I going to do about my relationship, my financial issues, my physical issues, my decisions coming up. And when we have those moments, sometimes when we travel and see beautiful natural environments, we wake up in a way we hadn't been at home, habituated to our usual environment. So this is aspects of what we call mindfulness. Now Ernesto pointed out the bigger picture of life, what we're here for as human beings. Your mind may be buzzing with the provocative and stimulating ideas about the future and possibilities. And it's wonderful, it's an amazing amount of information. But you know what? It still comes down to moment living with ourselves. Wherever we go, here we are. So mindfulness isn't just paying attention. It's paying attention to the one moment of reality, this moment. When we talk about the present moment, we have to understand the paradox of that, because any physicist will remind you there's no such thing as the present moment. How do you grab a nanosecond? When is now? It's already past. If you were sitting in a boat flowing down a great river, from the viewpoint of an observer on the shore, you're moving through a river of time, from past, present to future. But from your viewpoint, sitting stably in that boat, you exist in the stillness, the eternal present. That's the paradox. It's the only place we can ever be. But our mind, our imagination, our memory flit from past to future. It's a wonderful human capacity. I wouldn't want to give it up. There are people with brain injuries who can't remember more than 30 seconds, and then life is anew. It can be very problematic. So the ability to remember, to learn, to have impressions of the past, to project our imagination into the future can be valuable. But it's also a source of suffering, dissatisfaction, anxiety, regret. Oh, I wish I hadn't said that, or I wish I had said that at the meeting that just happened. Or, oh, there's a toxic personality I have to meet today and deal with. Past and future. When we're suffering, that's the time to remember the only reality is this moment. Mark Twain, the American writer, once said, I've had many troubles in my life, most of which never happened. We laugh because there's something true about that, isn't it? Most of our problems, anxieties, fears, are about our imagination or things that are past. We can't change the past. Well, actually, we can. The best way I know of to change your past is to live constructively and productively in the present, because your present will soon become your past. And the future, well, this is the past of your future. So time, as they say, was invented so not everything would happen at the same time. So this idea of mindfulness, again, is about turning our attention back to the present moment. A writer named Barbara Rasp once wrote, the lesson is simple, the student is complicated. And many of these complications are due to our mind flitting around. Nothing wrong with looking to past, planning our day. We just don't want to get too attached to the plans, because all plans are tentative, as life has taught you. Things change. So how do we become more mindful? How do we turn our attention to the present moment? Why would we want to do that? Well, for one thing, if you'd like to have a quieter mind and a simpler life, it helps tremendously. Because you can't think about anything in the present moment. Whenever you think about anything, ruminate, consider, you're thinking about the past or future, guaranteed, whether it's a few seconds ago or from now. In the present, there is only pure awareness. If I were to take some small tennis balls or just throw them out to you and you were reaching out to catch those, in that moment you probably wouldn't be thinking about lunch later today or what you had for breakfast yesterday. You'd just be reaching out. This is why we love playing frisbee and playing a musical instrument and performing, because it pulls us back into that present when time flies. That's the paradox. Also, my life is quite busy. I would imagine yours is too. But my life has become very simple when I've finally realized I can only do one thing at a time. Sometimes we wake up in the morning with our mind buzzing for 16 things we have to do that day. Is that familiar at all? But actually, there's only one thing we have to do when we first wake up. Open our eyes and then sit up. Put our feet on the floor. Even if you're juggling, sometimes at my workshops I teach juggling. There's only one throw at a time. One throw. One throw. Now some of you are going, wait a minute, Dan, I'm a good multitasker. But attention is a zero-sum game. If you can split your attention. How many of you have spoken with someone on the phone and you know they're checking the web or doing their email while they're talking with you? You can usually tell because they go, oh yeah, how are you? Oh yeah, really? Oh, huh? Kind of vague. So that Zen joke is true. You can't really walk and chew gum at the same time. If you're focused entirely on your walking, you won't be thinking much about chewing gum or vice versa. So simply paying attention without judgments, simply being aware of this moment and this moment. Life is a series of moments. I've never met an intelligent person. I've only met people who have more intelligent moments. I've had some intelligent moments. I've also had some pretty dumb ones. So the idea is to bring more aware, more mindful moments into our life. Now let me tell you a quick story while I have time, paradoxically again. I was in the gymnasium, and the old man I called Socrates in my book, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, he was watching me, and I did a full twisting double somersault, stuck my landing. And that's a good thing in gymnastics. And then I ripped off my sweatshirt, threw it in my bag, and we were walking down the hall later on, and he turned to me and said, Dan, that last move you did was really sloppy. And I said, what are you talking about, Sock? It was one of the best dismounts I did in a long time. And he said, oh, I'm not talking about your dismount. I'm talking about the way you took off your sweatshirt and put it in your bag. He was reminding me once again that I was treating one moment as special and another as ordinary. And that there are no ordinary moments. And then he said something I never forgot. And actually I got that line into the Peaceful Warrior movie they based on the book, which is, he said, you practice gymnastics, I practice everything. Most of us spend our day doing things. We do the dishes, we do our work. But when you practice something, you're doing it with the intention of refining it, improving it. How many of us are still improving our signature, improving the way we walk and breathe, stand up and sit down? By practicing everything, and we may remember to do it 10% of the day, 15% of the day, but by practicing more and more our lives, it brings us into that place of mindfulness, that state of absorption. It's been called flow or the zone. And then we can go do our work in our organizations, in our lives, in our relationships even more effectively, because the quality of our moments become the quality of our lives. Thank you.